Hi, hello, and welcome to the Coffee Run Live episode a lot. I am very, very excited to talk to you today on this very, very fine Thursday, just prior to Easter. I don't know about you, but I am very excited. I can tell you, let me just put that there. Very excited to go into a few days break. What about you guys? Are you? Now, I have to tell you about how insane my morning has been. All right, so I've had a bit of coffee already today, and that's just, part and parcel of it. But I remember I got to interview the very fabulous author of one of my favorite books. You can see it's like very much Dogeared Red. This is my second copy of this book. I've got more that I give to people. It's my second copy of this book. I bought my first book. I actually lent to clients I hope they still have it. But one of the things that I think is really interesting about this is not just about the fact that I got to interview somebody who has made a huge impact on my life, has had a huge impact on my business and things like that. So I very first came across this, I'm pretty sure in 2014. I'm sure it was 2014. And I remember having a conversation or seeing a notification that a client of mine had interviewed Hendricks in like maybe the year before or perhaps that year on her podcast. And she was running a podcast with a radio personality, right? So like well-known radio personality here in Australia. And I was just kind of like, I would love, is this going back in 2014, 2013, maybe? Jane, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. I remember her telling me about this conversation that they had with him and that it was really amazing. And I'm just like, oh my God, like if I ever got to interview him, I would just be beside myself. So I saw a friend of mine actually in the States post a podcast interview of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's the sign from the universe. Thank you so very much. Let's reach out, right? So I've got this list of people that I would love to interview or I'd just love to talk to, I'd love to connect with, not as a client and not as a mentor or anything like that. I was just like, oh man, I would love to be able to chat to these people because they've, had a huge impact on me or I've loved their books or whatever the case might have been. And so like this thing came up, it was like a sign, I'm a huge fan of asking for signs and then getting them. And I was like, right, well, I've seen this. All right, stop it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to see if they're open to being interviewed. And he said yes. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So what's really funny for me is that there's a whole ton of people, and I'm sure that you have seen this, done this before. There's always these people out there that we're just like, oh man, it'd be so amazing to be able to interview them. And, then you don't ask, you don't reach out, you don't ask for help. And then, perhaps the opportunity, goes past. So this happened for me like last year. When I wrote Into the Spotlight, which actually was maybe about halfway through the draft this time last year. And I was like, right, you know what? There are people that I would love to interview for Into the Spotlight. And I was really thinking very much about musicians and things like that. But I referenced Hendricks Into the Spotlight. So I was just like, yeah, you know what? He's not gonna want to be interviewed by me. I'm just like this, little old nobody person from the middle of nowhere in Australia, And it was like not until like a year later, it's like, man, okay, got to make sure that I actually, do this. So what an amazing human. And what I thought I would do, I made a couple of quick notes and I will be, hi Zana, how are you? I will be obviously publishing. I've got to edit the interview and get it out and that kind of thing. But before that happens, I thought I would share with you a couple of questions that I asked him and things that I get asked all the time. It's nice to have someone who's, obviously been in the game for a hell of a lot longer than I have and has seen a lot more than I have and is just ridiculously amazing and very humble and very down to earth and very open. But one of the things that I get asked a lot is, does the work ever stop? We often have, as a coach, you'll know, or as a mental health professional, or as a mentor, whatever it is that you do, however it is that you label yourself, I'm sure, and even if you're a stylist, I used to have this when I was talking about style and branding. People would come up with fears, limiting beliefs. They would have questions, fears. There'd be worries and anxiety-provoking things that would come up. And they're like, oh yeah, that would be great if only this, or I'd love to do that. But, so we've got these goals, hopes, dreams, things that we want to go and achieve. And then there's these other things that can kind of come up and undermine what it is that we want to do consciously and unconsciously. So one of the questions that I get asked is like, does the work ever stop? Like, does this shit ever stop? Is there always something that's going to come out? You just kind of like bust through one layer of things and then there's something else that comes up and, we see this all the time, right? Particularly if you are somebody who wants to get better at what it is that you're doing and you maybe want to, ascend in frequency or whatever your language is. For those of us who are very driven by personal growth and want to be the best goddamn versions of ourselves that we can possibly be, there's things that come up, right? I know that this is not just me because we've got these upper limit problems, which is what Gay talks about in the book. And there's actually a new book. I am so excited. I feel like this is the best thing that could ever have happened ever. There's a brand new book coming out in June called The Genius Zone. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get my hands on it. Not till the 29th of June, I think, from his publishers have said. So the thing is that we're always hitting these upper limit problems. Like I know for me, if I'm feeling like I'm a bit stuck or something like that, there's usually something going on where I'm sitting in doubt or self-doubt, or I've been doing things that are not in my zone of genius for a lot of the time. And the work never stops was my opinion. It's like the work never stops. And he actually said, yeah, that's right. Like it doesn't stop. But one of the things that I think happens that we were talking about and that he alluded to is that it's like that when we're going up and we're consistently and constantly wanting to be more, serve more, do more things, there are always things that are constantly going up, and then we can kind of come back down, and then you work through it, and then it gives you that chance to be more expansive and do more. So one of the things that is suggested for those of you, who want to do what you're here to do, right? If you're wanting to live your purpose, I wrote a quote in my notes this morning, like on the treadmill. I was like, this is something that I think is really important. It's not something I heard. It was just something I've kind of gone, oh yeah, definitely that. Hang on, what did I say? We're better humans when we are connected to our purpose, right? So I was like, yeah, that's definitely, I'm definitely attributing that to myself because I completely made that up on the treadmill this morning. I don't know if anybody else has ever heard anybody else say that, but I'm going to make that my quote for today because I think that is absolutely true. And I was thinking about purpose this morning as I'm walking on the treadmill at my, getting my steady state cardio in before rolling onto the gym with my husband. And I was thinking about purpose, and I was thinking about the signposts of this. And I think the big thing for me is that it's so important for us to be living in as much alignment as we possibly can. And for me, the people that I work with, you know, you guys want to be working in your zone of genius, right? Like you want to be doing the things that you're here to do. You want to be serving the people that you feel like you're here to serve. You want to be doing the work that lights you up. And in that way that makes you feel like you are king of the fucking world all day, every day, as much as you possibly can. You know, chatting to, and you'll see it in the video footage, chatting to Gay today, and he's like this person who has got, like, we've all got energetic fields around us, right? But it's like this shine, and you can tell that he's bigger than what you just see on the screen. And he's been doing this for, you know, 40, 50 something years. And, you know, one of the things that he was saying that when he first started, I think it was the age of 24, he had this big moment where he fell down and he was overweight, and he had this moment of clarity, and he decided that he was going to live in, I might have the times wrong, you'll listen to the interview, that the date's wrong, but he committed to living in his zone of genius as much as possible. So, you know, maybe 20% of the day initially, and then getting to 30% of the day, and then getting to 40% of the day, and then to 50% of the day, and so on and so forth. And I think for people like you and I, we want to build our businesses around service. We want to build our businesses around helping other people, right? It's what we're here to do. And one of the best possible things that you can do is find the way to be more in that zone as much as you possibly can. And I think the thing that is super important is finding the way for you to be able to do that. And I think that can become really scary. So one of the things yesterday for me, I wrote a big blog yesterday. You may or may not have read it. There was quite a few words, and it was about, I was feeling pretty anxious yesterday. I was feeling very much like, fuck this shit. I wanted to bury my head in the sand. I wanted to pretend that nothing was going on in Queensland. Here in Australia, there was a COVID outbreak in Queensland. I'm supposed to be in the Gold Coast in like a week and a half. And I was all just like, oh, you know, I really, 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 really need a beach fix. I really, 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 really need an in-person client fix. I need to squish my people. And yesterday with all of the stuff, and I know that other people have had a bad, you know, this is not about that. This was just very much a woe is me morning, yesterday morning. I'm like, oh my God, I just don't want to play. I was really distracted. I was finding it very hard to keep my thoughts cohesive and steady. And one of the things that I did without really sort of thinking about it, I was like, okay, well, what's one thing I can do right now that I know makes me feel good? And I didn't feel like walking. I'd already been to the gym. I'd already done the exercise and stuff that I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and do the thing that I feel like really doing that will feel good for me. And so I wrote out, you know, the next month's worth of journal prompts for you guys. I was like, right, you know, what are some journal prompts to help you, you know, grow and build your visibility, to get you out of your own damn way, to help you journal out your stuff, like find these upper limit problems, find these, you know, negative beliefs or pesky things that have been creating anxiety and keeping us stuck and, you know, not putting ourselves out there and shit like that, because I know this happens all the time. So, you know, I was like, right, well, I'll do that. And then I was like, oh, cool. And then I can do this. And then I started to tap into that flow of creativity. Now, guess what happened? Well, you might not guess, but I will tell you. I was like, I was feeling so much better. I was feeling more grounded. I was breathing again. I felt like I was just, instead of being this, you know, really hyped up, like, I was able to just kind of settle back down a little bit and get back into what it was that I was doing. And I felt like, right, I know that creating picture quotes in fucking Canva is not my zone of genius, but me providing some prompts for you to help you uncover things that might be stopping you or helping you to manifest the things that you want. I know that whether or not I am in person delivering like this now, or whether I'm with my clients, I know that is something that I'm freaking awesome at doing. And it kind of helped me to get into my zone of genius. So this is a huge thing, right? And this is what Gay was saying, like, you've got to find a way to tap into that flow of creativity, and that we all have upper limit problems that come up. one of the stories that he told, and then I'm going to let you go. One of the things that often comes up, and this just came up even last week when I was doing Visible Live and things like that, one of the big things that holds people back from putting themselves out there, from being visible and stepping into the spotlight, are things like, what is everybody else going to think about me? Everybody else is so much more qualified than me. Everybody else is prettier than me. Everybody else is more handsome than me. Everybody else is more motivated than me. Everybody else is more creative than me. Everybody else seems to be able to do this really easily. You know, why is this so hard? Yada, 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 right? Imposter syndrome is huge. With many people I know. Is something that I've had to work through personally. I think every client of mine that I've worked with has had to work through this kind of thing. And one of the best things that you can possibly do is kind of just go, all right, acknowledge it, you know, sit with it, go, all right, you know, do I really believe this to be true? Does this actually have to be true? And why am I feeling like this? Right? Because here's the thing, you know, if you've got this idea, or if you know, it's not just about being really great at something, it's about you going, oh my God, you know, if I could do this all day, every day, like this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do. This is me living an amazing life where I'm doing what I want to do in the way that I want to do it. I'm serving, I'm creating massive transformation for people. You know, if I can do that, then the hell with what everybody else thinks. Great. What is it that you're going to go out and do? What is it that you're going to go out there and share? Because we all have upper limit stuff. The best example that he gave me was this. He said he had a call from a client of his he didn't say their name, but he said very, very well known. And he was due to go down to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and do his handprints and have the star laid on Hollywood Boulevard. And he said that his friend called him and said, oh my gosh, you know, he was having a bit of a meltdown. He was freaking out, right? So this is obviously somebody who is very well known, because if you're not well known, you don't get your star on Hollywood Boulevard and you don't get to go and put your hands in Le Mans Theatre. So what he said is like, you know, what he was worried about, this person that was going and doing this, what they were worried about was why, you know, they don't feel like they were any better than anybody else. I know that I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just the best at being me, right? And he was like, wow, you know, what about this other person who's so much better than me? Like, they deserve to be here. It's like, well, actually, no, you know, you deserve to be here. You get to deserve to be here based on, you know, what you've done. And this is perfect. Your ability to shine gives other people permission to shine, right? We don't, like one of those really great metaphors is like, we don't look at the stars and go, oh, look, that star's shining a lot less bright to make sure that the star next to it can shine. There's everybody, the whole sky is shining. And I think, you know, quite often that when we are overthinking what it is that we're doing, or overthinking how things should be or how things must be or whatever else, we've got to really acknowledge it for what it is. It's total bullshit. Because there is enough space for you, there's enough space for me, there's enough space for everybody else that listens to this, and really you've just got to get out of your own freaking way and leap. So what I wanted to share with you today, the big things that I wanted to share with you today is you've just got to ask for the things that you feel like are aligned. Right? So for me, seeing my friend that's not very good English, seeing a photo of my friend in Hendricks, I was like, okay, this is a sign, like right now, yep, bang, okay. And I, without hesitation, I leapt, I went and found the email address, I emailed them, and literally within 24 hours, they came back and they had said yes. So if there's someone that you want to reach out to for help, reach out to them and ask them for help. If there's someone you want to interview, go and do it, because, you know, heck, what's the worst thing that happens? They say no. It's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection on anything other than, you know, they've made the choice to say no, and that's cool. All right, great, move on. Who else? You know, we all get worried about a perceived future and a perceived outcome and the perceived result. And more often than not, the reason that most people don't leap is because they paint that potential future in their head in so much detail, right? You imagine in so much detail how you're going to crash and burn, how it's going to fail, how you're going to lose your money, how you're going to lose a house, how your husband or your wife are going to leave you, how your kids are going to end up, with no opportunities, how you're going to end up as washed up, dried out has been on the beach of failure. We are really excellent at catastrophizing a potential future that hasn't even happened yet, that may not ever happen yet, right? But if you imagine instead, think about the detail that you imagine you're failing. Think about the detail that you imagine being rejected. Think about the detail of all of that worst case scenario, and then translate that immense fabric of that vision into the best case scenario. Imagine that with as much detail, with as much passion, with as much emotional force behind it, and you are a hell of a lot more likely to project yourself into that future and into that energy, and that's when you become more magnetic. But you've got to leap into that, right? Because otherwise you're more likely to either land in that washed up beach that you've imagined so vividly, or worse, in the land of kind of apathy where, things are fine. So my big advice is to just leap. What's the worst thing that happens? What's the best thing that happens? And just get out there and live your life. Because I tell you what, if I can glow in the way that this gentleman who is more than 70 years old, living an amazing life, being happily married for the last 42 years, if I can glow like him at the age of 70, at the age of 42, which is what I am now, or like anything above this, then, I will be living a very blessed life. And I think we all have something to learn from that. Live in your zone of genius as much as you can. All right. I am going to love you and leave you and set you free to get about your day. We have got our very fabulous hot seat coming up. We've got restrictions have been eased in Queensland as at 12 o'clock today. So I'm very, very happy. So we've got the hot seat coming up in about 10 days, 14th and 15th of April. On the Gold Coast. I cannot wait to be there. If you need to find out more about that, I can't find the link. I will though, at some point. Here we are. Hang on a second. Let me find that link. So if you've got any questions about that or anything else that I can answer for you, please make sure you let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to love you and leave you, set you free to go kick ass in your very amazing Thursday or Wednesday evening if you are in other parts of the world. Get out there, go help some people, have a whole ton of fun doing it. But most of all, remember that the world is ready for your brand of awesome in the way that you do it, in the way that you bring it, and you freaking rock. All right, everyone, have a great day. Bye.